Welcome back to our episode of the Business of Beautiful Spaces, the podcast where we go beyond design and talk about what it really takes to build a thriving, purpose-driven business. The episode today is a special one. I am calling it a fireside chat with the SheEOs in my life. These are three incredible women who have each carved out remarkable careers, built successful businesses, and along the way became some of my closest friends and greatest inspiration. Each of them have set aside an entrepreneurial table where they are either decades into running their own company or navigating a new chapter in their leadership, and all bring a unique perspective on what it really takes to succeed. This conversation is honest. It is unfiltered. It is deeply real because being an entrepreneur, no matter the industry, requires sacrifice, resilience, community, and a whole lot of heart. We're diving into all of it. The highs, the lows, the guilt, the growth, the joy, the grind that comes with building something meaningful. So I want to introduce you to these powerhouse women. First up is Caroline Petrova. Caroline is the founder of and principal of Pivot Point Consulting. Caroline is a certified executive and leadership coach and HR specialist with 2 decades of experience with helping leaders and teams unlock their potential. She is known for empathy, clarity, and the ability to help people get unstuck and create real transformation in their lives. And as you're going to learn, she does this fractionally. So this is someone that you can use in your business at any time. Next up is Chris Miller, owner of Doral Painting. She has been leading a team of skilled artisans for over 30 years. Chris is the definition of entrepreneur longevity. She has built a business grounded in trust, craftsmanship, and relationships that are standing the test of time. Not only is she my friend, but she is my trusted painting vendor and has been for close to 20 years. And finally, Deb Dobson, partner at Peloton Capital Management. She brings more than 30 years of experience leading high-impact growth and transformational across all industries. She's an investor, a strategist, born leader who helps organizations unlock lasting value by aligning purpose, people, and performance. Together, these three women embody what it means to lead in both strength and grace. They've each navigated success, setbacks, reinvention, and today we're pulling back the curtain on what this journey really looks like. So grab your coffee, or maybe it's a glass of wine, and settle in, because this is part 1 of this fireside chat with the SheEOs in my life. Welcome to the Business of Beautiful Spaces, a podcast that's specifically for interior designers and decorators. This is the podcast for designers and decorators who love creating beautiful spaces, but also know that building a profitable business is what makes it all sustainable. Hi, I'm Laura Thornton, and after nearly 30 years in the interior design industry and building a 7-figure design firm, I know firsthand how lonely it can feel running your own business. Making big decisions without a boardroom, without a business partner, or another executive team member to walk things through. That's exactly why this podcast exists. Think of me as your interior design bestie. The place you come for honest conversations, real action items, and a clear to-do list that you can apply today to move the needle forward and improve your bottom line. And if you can't get the answers you're looking for here, one-on-one mentorship with me is always available, because no designer and decorator should have to figure this out alone. My goal with every episode is simple: to help you build a more profitable, confident design business and propel you into sustainable, successful future. So let's dive in. Okay, welcome back to the Business of Beautiful Spaces. We're going to start with Chris Miller today. Chris, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
I sure can. My name is Chris Miller, and I am a small business owner. My company is called Doral Painting. We do painting, everything from residential to commercial to industrial, institutional. We do retail stores. We do a lot of work in the petrochemical industry. Our projects range from big box brick and mortar stores to hundreds and thousands of square feet of office space, to leasehold improvements, to low income residential buildings, to high-end homes in Toronto. We do cottages. We travel all over Ontario, and we've recently expanded into Alberta.
And you have been doing all of my residential jobs for over 15 years. You and your team.
30 years this year.
Yeah.
Started in 1996.
Huge milestone. Huge. So we'll get into stats after about how few people make it that far. But Caroline Petrova, you're up.
My name is Caroline Petrova. I am the owner and principal consultant for Pivot Point Consulting, specializing in supporting leaders with coaching and fractional HR services. And I predominantly specialize in like team engagement, leadership development, and cultures. like building cultures within organizations.
What Caroline?
Fractional mean?
Fractional's a new way of saying consulting.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can bring them on when you need
Leadership. So it started a lot. There it used to say your leadership role. It's like leadership role is like you're bringing somebody in on a fractional basis. You're not hiring them on full time.
consultant.
It's consulting.
And Caroline, we have a whole episode, just you and I, back in year one. So if anyone listening wants to go back, we have a whole episode about your business and what you do and how it can benefit you.
Yeah.
All right, my friend Deb Dobson, you're up.
Hi, I'm Deb Dobson. Well, at least it's not like the other. I do have a consulting company now, but historically, I'm an engineer with an MBA. So I've been in big corporate life, multinationals for the majority of my career. What does that mean? Just think about companies in over 60 different countries, and in life sciences, technology businesses that are quite scaled. But I do mergers and acquisitions, and I help businesses grow, and I help businesses with strategies. That's always been my bread and butter. And the last 6 years, I've been around private equity, so much smaller businesses, much more founder-led businesses. I pivoted intentionally to get out of big corporate business to get more entrepreneurial. So I spent a lot of time the past 6 years helping smaller businesses scale up. Sometimes we're the first capital coming in that's external. That's what I do. And then currently, I'm now consulting, doing some fractional work. Likely going to go back into another full-time role, probably high-impact role within a smaller company.
So this is the first time I think the four of us have ever sat down to talk about business, which is so interesting because, right, like even just hearing, I didn't know all that about Deb and how long have I known you. So I find that fascinating. Okay, so I want to dive into what is the biggest misconception that people often have about you and your business and what you do? Because clearly I had some with Deb. I've known what you do. But Chris, what would be the biggest misconception for you that people think about your business externally?
I don't know how to answer that. Misconception? Like, give me an idea of what you're talking about.
So I think for me in the last 3 or 4 years, I've really noticed that people will say things to me that they have this assumption that I'm too busy or my company is too big to tackle their projects, which is, I don't know where that misconception has come from. I don't know why they would think that, but it's happened quite a few times. They're like, well, I've always wanted to do X, Y, but that's too small of a project for you. And I'm like, no, it's not. That's what we do. And so I'm trying to navigate, how do I bust through that in this year with marketing or whatever the case may be. So that's something that I'm found with our misconception that my business has gotten somehow too big for doing smaller projects.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Right? I don't know when it started or how it started, but if people hadn't said it to me, I would have absolutely no idea that is the thought process. Yeah. All right. Well, Skippy.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm a misconception right from conception. So I really, the stats were never in my favor to start off with. So I feel like I'm an anomaly just to even 30 years in a male dominated industry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I should have had my tail between my legs and been in the field position day one and quit this. The whole thing has just been a misconception. My actual name is Christina, and I purposely don't use that so that it's more generic.
Mm-hmm.
And because it is a male dominated industry, and it has been since the beginning of time, Chris just was so much better. And then finally, you get somebody on the phone, right? And then they're like, oh, you're a female? I'm like, I sure am.
Yeah, I sure am. Or I have a very high voice. But do you find a misconception in painting is price? People don't realize that it is like an art form and
yeah. So,
because everyone's got a friend. I got a friend. No, I
didn't know you wanted to that detailed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so many people, we come across people who always, well, I've got a friend who can do it, or we're just going to do it ourselves, and it's expensive. Like, you're paying your people well, and you're delivering a service, and I think you have to pay for that. And yeah, I do what I can, and but it's expensive. Everything's expensive these days. When I first started, paint was like $10 a gallon. Now it's like $50, and that's the bottom end.
Yeah, that's
expensive.
Well, Caroline, I think we found one of yours because fractional is an interesting thing. We take it for granted. We hear it all the time. But if someone doesn't know, like Chris didn't know what that was, that could be a misconception for you. What else have you found?
I found that if they look me up on LinkedIn, they see all my corporate experience, and they don't necessarily understand that I'm a roll up your sleeves kind of person. Like, I'm willing and able to dig into the weeds and understand. they also, there's a lot of different ways HR and human resources they show up in companies. And for people who have not had positive experiences with HR, that's one way I can get viewed, like policing, terminations. Oh, you're a recruiter. There's a lot of different
Negative. Yeah.
connotations to what HR does versus business partnering, consulting, in-house, providing talent, being another voice at the table to strategize on how do we get these goals done. And so that's something that I've always had to work with. MHR as a general industry has to work with that. Plus it's female dominated. So some of the industries view HR as being the female in the room that's going to deal with the problem that they don't want to deal with. Like, can you just clean up on aisle one type thing, and less strategy, more transactional, less strategy as a perception. But once they get to see what I do and how I approach things, then they see, oh, and I've had leaders be like, oh, I didn't realize like you would know so much about the business. Like, how did you learn that so quickly? And it's like, well, because I my business is knowing how to learn businesses.
And then ask all right questions. And I don't think people realize too that you could be and should be probably a first call when you're ready to scale and when you're ready to like make your first hire, and who would that look like? Because we all guess, because we don't know. We're all running our own business by ourselves. We don't have a board. We don't have anyone to jump ideas off of. So we just go with, well, this is taking the most time. If I put someone in that chair, I gain more time, and we just do it without really doing the deep dive where someone could pay for your time to do that deep dive and figure out what the right hire would be, how to hire them,
and also just trust an advisor,
and legally what that looks like.
Right.
Like to cover
you say from where you are today with your team to where you want to go. Like, that's a journey and that's a process. And those are steps to take, right? And there's foundations on which you build all of that. And it's having somebody go in and understand and ask you as a business owner, okay, well, what have you got in place today? What's like bright and what's dim? And how do we get from dim to bright, so to speak, on some of these pieces, and what makes sense now? So yeah, a bunch of things that have come up along the way.
Caroline, people most often just work with what they have and come to talent decisions too late. Bringing in people, training people scale like
out of desperation,
trembling out of talent. They just stay being gotcha that you shouldn't keep on.
I think that's a huge one. It's wrong. A person in the wrong.
Somebody in the seat just is doing the work. They are great at it, but I don't really have the time, or I don't know how to go and find days, or I don't even know how to have the conversation with that person to be able to say, you're not meeting my expectations, or I need you to do it differently.
Or what steps do I legally have to go through to get rid of this person, and what does that look like? Yeah.
Right.
That's a good point. Okay, Deb, misconception?
What was your misconception about me?
Well, I didn't know all the backstory, right? But
okay. Well, I think it depends. It depends what you know and what you know, because Caroline will probably nod, because I know she came from a large-scale Canadian corporation. Like, you get type. So if you know that I worked for Danaher Corporation, and a lot of Canadians don't know what that company is, but a lot of Americans do, and global players do, there's a phenotype. So they assume this is what and they're somewhat true. This is what I can bring. A Danaher Corporation is a serial acquirer, and they're a very strong operator, many different businesses. So people might say, okay, she worked at Danaher for 12 years, therefore she's that. Or if you know what a mergers and acquisition professional looks like, very, very male. So obviously, number one, I'm unique by being a female in a very male-dominated field. But then you just think she's highly transactional. She knows how to get deals done. And yes, I can do deals, but it's very funny. I like growing businesses. That's what I said at the onset. So I have way more fun with the aftermath of deals. So M&A transaction professionals tend to like doing the deal, going to exit, the endpoints of a journey. I like the mess thereafter and helping make the mess better and getting to the growth target. So you just got to know, it depends how people want to type you, especially if you've been in larger businesses or you've come from larger corporations, or you're in some of these well-known fields, so you just have to make sure your own personal brand strengths and the impact you've done different things is well-known and shown. So that's where I'd say the misconceptions happen.
Okay.
I can work with entrepreneurs because I just did it for the past 6 years.
Right.
Where someone would see my big business portfolio, probably like Caroline's, and not realize, well, guess what? I've been hanging out with a bunch of founder entrepreneurs for the past 6 years, and much smaller businesses. And a lot of them are very Canadian focused. Some of them are North American focused. Only one was global focused. So guess what? I had to change my whole scale and tool set And I had to reduce a lot down just because they're smaller businesses, but just talk shop with those founders, those entrepreneurs, those management teams, and help them scale up in the growth journey they want to do.
And the ability, sorry, to take those toolboxes and playbooks that work and scale in large organizations, being able to make sure that people understand that you have the ability to scale it down.
Yeah.
And that's a really good entry
Simple environment, in a less convoluted environment, in one where leaders want something simple. I don't have a lunch time. I can't deal with that. That's too complicated for me. Like, that's a really good point.
And scaling, well, that is a really big thing for a lot of entrepreneurs, and it's a very hard thing. And there is this valley of death that like the businesses will go through, and some make it and some don't. But each one of us, depending on where we were in our careers, there's always going to be this big shift or decision that gets made that has changed the trajectory of your business or your career. Can you pinpoint what that was for you? And Deb, you were just saying that you switched over 6 years ago and you're about to go through another pivot. But do you remember what the biggest shift was that really changed the trajectory of your career?
Oh, it's an interesting question. 30 years. So there's probably more than one. But I would say when I rejoined a multinational, so Danaher, that was a pivot point because there was sort of it's just a different culture, different it was the most high performance environment I've ever been in. So that was, and it was super, and I was young mom, here we go, right? Young mom, my mom was sick too. So if I think back to that time, like that change could have, and by the way, I didn't choose that change. I sold the business. So a business that was Canadian owned got landed in an American parent. So I didn't pick a new parent. I got a new parent, with a ton of personal challenge too. But I was able to recognize during that time, it was really tough, but I was able, like, so much change, so many places. But I realized what speaks to me. And so for me, what resonated with this company was a high performance orientation that cut the fat quickly, get direct in your conversations, like get to the heart of the matter. And they're very analytical. And guess what? That spoke to me. And they want growth. They want they want to drive a ton of growth. So I realized in that setting why I stayed there for 12 years. And I could have bounced out probably within six months or a year from that business, because I'm like, it's just not what I originally joined. Carolyn's been through an acquisition too, and it's not your choice. But that was a big pivot, I think, because I better understood what resonates with me. And then I think leaving that and then going to the world of private equity, I started in private equity and going back to private equity and sort of helping two founders who are helping them get this business off the rails. That was also another fun point. And then dealing with all these founder entrepreneurs, because then you realize I can, like we were talking about before, translate what I'm doing elsewhere in many different environments. So which makes it fun. So now I'm like, okay, let's go have some fun. I like change. You guys know this probably about me personally, but I like change. I like messes. I like unknown. So that just continues to resonate though.
This is also the longest I've ever heard you not swear. Caroline.
She's like, I would be remiss if I didn't say the biggest point was me deciding to go out on my own and create this company, create this way of,
entrepreneurship,
and actually following my own entrepreneurial fire that was in my belly that had been there for a while, but I'd been so nervous, and different life stages, to your point around why you make decisions at this certain point. But yeah, going out on my own was literally the pivot, and a big part of me calling myself the pivot.
Yes,
right. It was it's about both helping me achieve my goals, but also helping others see things in a different way. And that's what I bring to the table, is just another perspective. So I blended those two pieces, but it was a huge decision. It was not an easy decision to go from a successful big company with lots of cushion. As much as we say there's no stability and it can be replaced, it still comes with a whole bunch of pillows.
Yeah.
And
comes with sick days and paternity benefits.
All of that is part of the process. Like, you don't care. Like, yeah, it's got people around you that you can bounce ideas off. There are centers of excellence in large organizations that you can go and leverage.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, that was big and not anything I would change. I love it. It just required me to rethink about what those career goals were. And over the years, they've shifted and morphed. Where I thought I was going to build a much bigger and scale a business, I have intentionally kept my business small to allow me to do what I want to do. And part of it's a little bit of the control aspect of it, of like, I know what I'm putting out. I know exactly what my capacity is. I've got my own brand. I've got my own processes, and yeah, so that's been a conscious decision, but some give ups and some positives on that too.
I love that yours was not Caroline's was by choice. Yours was not initially by choice. Like you would take it, their parent company was taken over and it pivoted. Chris.
So I think for me personally, and I think it's just surviving economic cycles. And I think that it's really, you have to just try to adapt to the market evolution. I mean, at 30 years, I've seen a lot of ups and downs in the market, right? So just to be able to say, okay, like we can survive that. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. Right? Being resilient. I think it's really important. And then it's really hard. Like,
but you have multiple crews.
I do.
So
Change.
like, are you always, like at some point you would have had that, do I take on a second crew? Do I take on a third crew? Like, what made you decide, and why did you start? Like, you obviously made a conscious decision at some point to say, I'm comfortable here with this many crews, because you've been running with the same crews.
And that's another thing. I don't have a lot of turnover with my people, which not in the last 15, 20 years. Before that, it was very different for me. We had, I was probably overconfident and was like, well, people are replaceable. But the real asset are your people. The real asset is your team and the relationships that you build. So for me, that was a big evolution for me, and to be able to have to really find a good team. And I have very little turnover. Well,
yeah,
like I have very little turnover in my staff. And then there did come a point in time where there was an opportunity for me to scale up a little bit, and I took it. But it didn't come with a lot of stress and indecision and just say, okay, now's the time, versus I don't think that I definitely wasn't the same person 30 years ago. I wouldn't be able to do what I've done now. Like I experience more humble. There's a whole lot of different emotions, like where I don't need to be. My staff is so important. They are everything. I am only as good as they are. Right. And to let that go, and to like Caroline said, she wants to keep it small. I was like that for a very long time. Did not want to let my control go. But eventually it was like, you know what, this was a good opportunity for me, and I took it, and we grew a bit.
Well, and your quality is your output of quality is consistent because your team is been the same team.
Yeah, totally.
So I think there's that business part of it, and I know we talked that another area of discussion and that we have in this, and also outside of in our day-to-day lives. But that decision that I made was about how much time I could spend at work and how much time I wanted to spend at home. And so that was also a conscious decision for me to say, you know what, like I could do it, but and that's what I mean about the give ups. Like, yeah, I because it's far replaced something hard professionally, but in order to kind of spend time with kids and make sure that I was at the events. And
like, Deb, you traveled a ton, so much, right?
I did. Yeah, I did. I do, but not as much obviously right now. But yeah, I did. Even global company, fun, exciting, huge experiences, quite frankly, and what you personally and professionally, what you get to see, who you get to interact with. But man, it came at a cost. lucky that I was able to, I managed it really tightly. That was the way I handled that. I just kept my ins and outs. And when I was on the road, I just managed it tightly. I was very disciplined with my time.
And you also, like me, had somebody, like your husband is super supportive. Like Dave is so supportive. And we were a team. It wasn't just me in a role by myself. Like he was mummy sometimes too, right? Like
Correct.
it's hard.
My husband's business is local around where we live. So he was able to do things that moms typically do. He was able to do more of that pick up and drop off when I was traveling. But you're your own worst enemy in those situations. Like I had the most, like I was worried the most about my level of travel. And you don't need to just, I don't know, I think it's later on the questions, Laura, maybe, but you just had to give,
I love that it's organic. We are going to jump. We're going to,
I just had to give yourself permission. And Olivia, the nicest thing my mom said to me, one of the nicest things she said to me before I lost her, when I was going back to work, and I don't have beyond my husband, I don't have a big net here beyond friends, family, community. But you don't, as we all know, reality is it comes to the caregivers, parents to look after. She said, "Don't worry, go out, keep traveling, go do you, because when you're home, because I was single, she goes, Olivia's got all of you." That's very unique. And I was like, and it was a permission from someone, obviously I care, admire. She's my mom. I wanted to be as good and great as a mom as her. It was a really nice, it's probably one of the biggest gifts she's ever given me.
So Caroline, did you have more flexibility? Do you have more flexibility now, or did you have more flexibility in corporate?
I have way more flexibility now.
Yeah. So that was definitely
So much
big
upfront for me too. I was there. My hours had longer. The stress level was as high. No, higher in corporate, I would say. I have a lot of stress today with work, but it's ones that I'm controlling and I know about. And there were a lot more kind of things you can't control that land on your plate
right.
The surprises and things like that.
I would say that would be more stressful. My biggest benefit is that owning your own business, it has allowed me the flexibility to be with my family and go on the school trips. But it didn't mean that I wasn't working. I was just working at like 9 a.m.
Yeah.
midnight. People are getting emails from me at 8 o'clock in the morning.
At least now you can schedule them to arrive at the right time. So, people are waking up to, what are you doing awake at 3 a.m? Well, I just needed to get it off my plate. Yeah. So I agree. I think there is flexibility, but like I remember doing March break with you, Chris, and our boys, and we would go like all day doing stuff with them. Like, let's do the movies, let's go bowling, let's go. And then, when they were in the movie, she'd be like, I'm just going to go to the bathroom with her phone. So I knew she was going to like email and do the things or call someone on a job site. And then we would leave and do the same thing. And then you would stay up until whatever time at night. Like you made it work. But yeah. And I will say that I was disillusioned that I thought they didn't know. They fully knew. Like I remember, I remember Brogan coming home from school like a month after school started with the envelope of the month's work, and it was the first day of school, and they wrote, my mom's name is, my dad's name is, my dad, and most kids were walking. My mom likes to, and I'm sure there was shopping or work, and then I was like, oh, like that's not.
I got
cool.
one better,
right?
One
not
better.
Cool.
How many March breaks or when they had PA days? Can you just come with mommy to the job site? Just come with mommy to the job site. Yeah. We're just going to be a couple hours, but then, we'll hit a Toys R Us.
Exactly.
For like, who does that?
I do that.
Everybody do whatever it took.
My children had furniture named after them. They had pillow lines named after them everywhere we went. Because Brogan was in the bucket, the bucket out of the cart, or what the proper term is now. I used to call it the bucket. And he was a baby when I started dealing with a lot of the vendors who I still use today. He's 21.
Yeah.
And they literally have watched him grow up. Now he delivers them Christmas, like, whatever, or he's worked with them on weekend, and they will now, like, literally my children had furniture named after them. They had pillow lines, drapery, like all kinds of things named after, because these vendors have grown up watching my children. So yeah, that's the reality. It's good. Yeah, you get up, get in the car, and my children, when it was snow days, like it is today here in Toronto, I dropped them off at school. Oh, they would go to school to watch movies because I didn't dump a meeting. I would have driven in this to get to the job site because I didn't have the same hours. Which of course that's another question I was going to ask. Do you think people are as devoted as they used to be to the work schedule that like we all came up with?
No. I think there's a very a very different work ethic.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's a work ethic that stops at 5 and start.
I don't get paid for that.
Right.
That's not my job. That's not my role.
I don't think folks realize, I mean, yes, we're not going to talk about COVID, but I don't think folks realize how helpful that was to our law. Way more flexibility. That's
Such an easy call.
less than it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want to chronicle all the disruptions. I never did not pack a work laptop on any vacation. And Alf and Olivia will say, remember when we were pulled over where we had to stop somewhere? You're on a European vacation. You're out in the mountains, and they had, we literally had to stop and find somewhere where I had reliable internet so I could do that call. And they didn't even care. I'll just put it that way. And guess what? I was working for a U.S. company with U.S. holidays, and I was one of the free radical Canadians that they had that. So sometimes they didn't even know. And you're I just had to meet the dates, timelines, whatever was going on, and then add that to a deal environment. So when you're a deals have a fixed timeline. So again, it's just silly. And no, I don't think the generation, just to go back to I don't think they realize that they're lucky to have the flexibility and just the greats that I would never, when I was on conference calls and Olivia would start chirping if I was driving her somewhere, I'd done a pickup. Amount of muting and my gosh,
The look of death those children would get.
yeah, they know the amount of stress in that call. But you now, just as an example, I'm sure you could easily kind of cruise through that call. And obviously mutes coming on and off.
Yeah.
But you could just say, well, it's there could be that flexibility. I asked so much of what I was doing if I just to whatever, do a camp pickup or do whatever I had to do to feel like I was also being a good mom. But now they can, and I was more accepted. So I think people don't realize how lucky we are to have that, I think.
And I'm sure the kids know. I'm sure.
Oh, my kids do. I was disillusioned thinking I was hiding it while I wasn't hiding anything.
Oh, and I think it's really contributed to each of our kids' personalities more than it would have been if we were doing something else. I'm thinking about all the times you're describing, that is informed how they navigate the world.
Yes.
In a positive
I agree.
way, more so than what we worried about it being a negative of them going to the job site or going to the supply.
What they know.
And having to figure something out in the corner while the meeting's going on or whatever. I think that's given them a better sense of the world and has been a plus for them versus what my initial fear of this is going to be terrible for them and they're going to hate it and it's going to erode our relationship. And I'm no, they actually they respect us more for it.
It's a work ethic, I think, that demonstrated for sure.
And I was working out of the house for years and years and years. It wasn't like I had a space. So they were, I would always say, mommy has to make a call. So I need to be very quiet. They would have been quiet all day. And then the one moment you get on the phone, it was like a fight would break out over Lego. And I'd be like, are you effing kidding me right now? But that would always be the reality. But like you said, now there's some gray. So this is a hot topic for me. So I'm curious what you guys think, because it's buzzy. You hear it all the time. Life, work, balance, which is what we're exactly talking about. But it is, or the hustle, are all these terms that people use to describe business, let alone entrepreneurship. But do you think you have found work-life balance, or do you think it even can exist? Chris?
Oh, balance is my favorite word. I talk about it with everything. I think it's really important to try to achieve balance. Can you achieve it? Yes. Is it in flux? Yes. Will it last? No. I think you can, there's glimpses of, wow, this is really good right now. And then something happens and the balance is thrown off. I really do I strive for balance. I strive for it. I know that, mental health is really important, and patience and all these things but in the end, really, mental health, man. And I don't know, I just feel like it's really important to not be too hard on yourself, but have the faith that it'll all work itself out and try to find the balance. But you also have to go through the grind. Don't you think you have to go through the grind? The first 10 years in business is hard.
I think every year is hard.
Well, every year's hard, but the first 10 years, you're doubting yourself, right? And then all of a sudden you get a little bit more experience and it's like, okay, well, maybe this isn't so bad. I think, being resilient, being able to adapt. It's hard.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I've used on the balance working with leaders and a lot of times, like looking at probabilities of like, on the balance, is this a positive or a negative? Like try and be, objective about things. And in my own experience and my own beliefs is that I used to define work-life balance in my perception of it was, can you have it all? It wasn't a balance in my head. It was like, can I put it all in and have it all? I didn't think about like a scale tipping. And what I concluded is no, you can't have it all, and you can't have it. You can have certain things at certain times.
Right.
And
Totally.
and I do believe in seasons. So
I like that, Caroline. Yeah.
decide what your priorities are and where your focus areas are, and recognize that some seasons are difficult. They require more effort,
Attention.
they require more energy and focus and attention in your time and your brain capacity. And that means that you have to give up something to be able to, because it's not infinite. You've got to decide where to put that energy. And then recognize that there are other seasons where you're going to take time to reinvest in yourself and, build up what you need to do and get another store of energy to go to the next season.
Right, exactly. And then you think your mental health, and then maybe we're going to work out, or maybe I agree totally.
Yeah. But to have balance, I think, requires you to make a decision about what's your priority for the moment that you're in, and be fully in the moment in that moment, and not worrying about what's coming up next and what happened in the past. But I think for me, presence and kind of that ability to stay focused on what's now has allowed me to be more successful.
And change is the one constant, right?
Always, it's always with us. Yeah, it's change. Yeah, totally.
Dope.
I like to work. My husband.
So did Olivia have that written on her sheet too? My mom likes to work.
Like people judge us. I've been judged by how much I work. But I know for me, relaxing is doing as well. I think you have to. I know I like to be on the go and do. I'm not saying that's not trying to be some victor, but you have to, I think, understand what gives you your charges and it helps you recharge. And I think if you just have to get those elements in place and understand what they are. And I actually believe it's work. I think it's community. I think, it's relationships. It's obviously family. Like there's just a lot of elements to it. It's your wellness. Like, as we all know, there's a lot of pieces to this, that your soul, however you feel your sleep, however you feel their soul. So I agree. So you just kind of your socials, we all know, like you just need to know what those elements are. And I'm with Caroline, like you're in seasons, things change, and you tend to know when you've got too much intensity in certain spots. At least eventually you do. Eventually something like signals up though. I almost said the S word, but
and you can. It's just a button. It just has a little button that says explicit.
But I've been over tilted here. But I think time and wisdom gets you to know what's going to work for you. And I know
self-reflection, I think. Yeah. Too. And just some experience of being able to take the pause to know if I don't have like this all in my life.
I 100%. I don't have fitness in my life that
just allowances. You just know like there's certain things, if I don't have it, like then I know I'm not going to be good. And I'll work hard if I've got my fit. Like you just got to know where sometimes where you're indexing, but that just takes time and probably some inward reflection.
I think. What drains your experience and what fills you? It's that old book that we had the kids read about the bucket. There are things that fill your bucket and things that empty your bucket. And I think really knowing yourself and taking some time to understand what really fills you up. And work, for many of us, fills our bucket.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but when I don't have work-life balance, so I actually was happily surprised for you that you said you had it, because I truly didn't believe it.
It's fleeting, and then you have it, and then it's fleeting. But I think that it's very it's always fluctuating. But what did you just said something that I was going to comment on?
The bucket,
in the bucket. Oh, but did you have that opinion 20 years ago, 10 years ago? I just think it comes with experience, don't you think?
For me, it's like time reflection and getting to know myself and
right.
But then comes about,
I think you did. I don't know. Because your heart.
We have more time now. Our kids don't need, like, now we're at a different
season.
we're in a very different time now. Like, if we'd had this conversation 10 years ago, you would be watching your watch to get to school on time to pick up the kids and then take them to
Because it was important to me
totally
to be there, right? That's the
agree.
those
But
are
we are very different. Yeah.
But I think if somebody's for
They're
the
still doing it. That's all. I think that's where Laura's going.
Yeah.
Like, even though we're now a little bit more reflective. Yeah, seasoned experience, whatever. But 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you were still doing it.
but for a young entrepreneur that's listening to this, wouldn't you say to them that it does come with reflection and it comes with
That's what I'm saying.
experience?
You have to wait for the experience. I think you could start it.
Yeah, I think it's
But put it in a practice of getting to know yourself, of what helps me be successful and what's going to drain, and how do I make sure that I'm not over indexing on.
And go gentle on yourself. Like you said, you'll have times that are high stress, and then you'll have times where you're prioritizing sleep or mental health or working out, or just be gentle.
I have a story that is maybe might lift, and I share it with new moms. That era I told you, that pivot era I told you, when I, new company, so new parent not selected. My mom was sick. I had a child under 2 years of age, like returning to work, returning on a deal, by the way, for work too. So it was like crazy. Upon reflection, I remember a year or two later, after I lost my mom and now I'm kind of back into gear, new company, getting on the groove, I had a performance review. And it was he's now the CEO of the company. Don't look him up, but yeah, you see that. But he at the time was our president of our business. And my performance review was, it wasn't terrible, but it was not the high performing performance review that I'm so used to getting. Caroline's not in my corporate life. I was always, super, super, super. And I kind of got, well, you phoned it in this year. And that's what he said to me. I was like, one of the things. So I was thinking about what I had done, but then I took that away and thought about it.
And your highly competitive self, make sure you knocked it out of the park the following year. It was worse.
But I took it away and I thought about it. I'm like, there's some truth to it, right? But then I thought about everything I had been through, like personally, and the stage of where I was at, like grieving and everything else that was at me. I was like, I was probably okay with it. Why would I not? It was probably the year for me to phone it in.
Yeah.
And of course, the competitive instinct in me was like, okay, buddy,
You watch me now.
You want to see what I get you? And of course, we're very good friends still and everything. But you know what? He wasn't wrong. And I have now told young moms, new moms, and it's not always has to be your mom stage, but I've seen people sort of sweating it out when you could tell they're trying to get back into their gear. It's okay. I'm like, it's okay. Just, showing up, being a contributor. I've given a lot of people permission to be okay. I'll put it that way. Not high performing.
That comes from your experience.
And my own self-reflection. But it's just, I think people don't hear that sometimes, right? Again, look at me. I'm like, I love high performance. I love being a high performer. That's what I said at my thing. But me giving myself permission, and I like that, giving other people permission to just say, it's okay to be chill. Life happens. That's right. And we also remember that. So,
right.
It's not
but don't be alone for the next couple of years. Eventually.
You need to be. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm now, again, this is perspective, but a lot of life happens to all of us. So, you're not always going to be able to hit it out of the park. You might be able to hit it out of the park elsewhere.
And as an entrepreneur, you're going to see that. It's going to show up in your data. It's going to show up in your revenue. It's going to show up. You're going to see it in multiple ways. And it's completely relative. Different when it's corporate and it's your review. And I don't know if that's bonus driven, but that's usually what and where it shows up for the entrepreneur also.
As an entrepreneur, you take your foot off the gas pedal.
Right.
But you're aware
you're sure instantly, right?
That's
so
100%.
Yeah.
It's a constant. It is a grind.
Yeah.
But you know what you said, Laura, about how our kids are older now, but they just get replaced with aging parents. They just get replaced with.
If you're lucky to, if that's what you're lucky to have, but you do gain more time. Yeah. That's to your career, or if that's what you choose, and if you choose to scale it.
But the external bits are still going to be there. Just changed. I just swapped my.
Yes, of course.
You needed more for aging parents.
Yeah. Well, I planned mine purposefully. I stayed in the house, made my business what it was, and kept it there for probably a few too many years instead of growing, because I wanted to be home with the boys until they were a certain age.
Right.
And, that comes with the what could have been or, whatever. But I knew that and I did that purposely.
That's right.
And then, I knew as soon as this date hit, that's where it was going to scale.
I think that's where I'm similar to you in that not needing or wanting or driving to say, you know what, like I need the amazing, huge growth business. And I mean, I recognized really that me personally, couldn't see those two things happening simultaneously. So I guess I'd already sorted it and had a philosophy in my head that the balance wasn't going to, like that balance wasn't something I was looking to have. I was going to make choices along the way. And that's what I hear you say as well, which is like,
and that was,
and now you made
that was 8 years ago, and now we've got a different phase. Like you keep going in phase.
Caroline, I wouldn't be surprised if you found Caroline 2.0 in a year, 18 months, or 2 years from now. It would be like, I'm bringing her on, and they are amazing. And all of a sudden, you just kind of scale. Like maybe, right?
Maybe. And she'll do it that much faster because she has all of this behind her. That's right. The thing. Now, once you know what you know and how you built the businesses or watched corporate businesses grow or was part of, like, you've done it, and it took us, let's for argument's sake, 10 years. It didn't, just using it as a number. And now you can pull all of that knowledge and pull that off in 2.
Yeah. Well,
you are quite able to do things. Now you look back and go, sweet Jesus.
And make a mistake.
How could I not see it?
Failures. Yep. Make a mistake.
Yeah.
That's where the learning comes.
So, okay, let's jump into this then, because we talked about your pivot point, but how important was to your business and your decisions and your growth was like mentorship, continuing education. Like what did that look like for you? Was that something that you took on and did to further yourself in your careers?
Yeah.
Or a person or a mentor or somebody that.
Yeah. I mean, there's been formal, in fact, corporate world, you get formal programs, informal programs, whatever, right? Whatever would have you. Corporate education things that I put in back. Say it with a straight face. Fine, but so you get you get a lot more tools, resources per se thrown out as you're kind of getting developed, and that's something to think about as entrepreneurs, right? I know that some of our audience is that that can also be a very big springboard. But if you ask me what's been most impactful, it's just those individual relationships, just individual encounters, certain situations that you go back to, how people handled it, how you handled it. Messages. I mean, one of the most poignant thing, a CEO who I was powering up very much younger in my career at MDS, he was going, I was watching this individual go through a high pressure time. Company was underperforming. And I was just observing everything around him and people around him, his management team, etc., board dynamics, shareholder dynamics. He had a lot of stress. He was one of my favorite people, still is one of my favorite people in the world. He said to me at one point, because there was a management change, and he said, Deborah, you don't cut what you can untie. And if there's anything that stuck with me in my professional life, for sure, this is me exiting the private equity firm I just did. I mean, still can't get off their email. I'm still trying to it sounds silly, but don't cut what you can untie. I'm still trying to fully separate. I mean, obviously I have now, but I still haven't. After I still got their email, I'm like, guys, let's get this done. But I really do subscribe to that because it's easy. It's easy to go. It's easy to cut things off. It's easy to take harsh position. Not always, but that's your emotional response, and it pays you way more dividends to play the long game with relationships, with decisions and implications. So, and that was a big learning from obviously you can tell someone I really highly value. I have nuggets like that from many different individual people around me.
It's been hugely beneficial to just surround yourself with people that are doing similar work, not like industry, but say groups. We might not have sat down formally like this to talk about work, but informally, we're having conversations about what's going on in our lives all the time. And I've got a community of people, friends and business that I can turn to and go, hey, facing this, or what do you think about this? Or, this is a challenge. And I think maybe not formal mentors. I've had a couple, not unfortunately in my career, I haven't had a lot of people that I've actually wanted to spend a lot of time with. I've had a couple, But I would say the people that I've surrounded myself intentionally with or have just been in my sphere have been more influential in helping me make decisions and kind of keep grounded or stay sane sometimes. But yeah, with this type of group and all the women that I know, it's surprising how many people we know that do have their own businesses. I always look at that and go, it's like quite an astonishing percentage of our network.
Do you think that's normal?
No, I don't.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it's birds of a feather.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true.
I really do think it's a little bit of that. And that for me has been so important. It's so important that you curate, like, and it doesn't have to be people in your industry. It's actually better. Yeah, so you go and find people that are doing other work, like we can pull their experiences from. Because
I agree. I love that you actually have a network of people to bounce ideas off of, because most entrepreneurs do not.
Really?
And that, yes, we are not the norm. And so this is the one thing about entrepreneurship. It's extremely lonely. And it's the one thing I thought was just for interior designers and decorators for a very long time. And it wasn't until I was getting into, I belong to the organization, which I know you guys know, and learning from other entrepreneurs that is actually status quo. That is something that everyone feels, and because they don't have another person to ask. They don't, even if they have a team or a staff.
Out in HR say the same thing. But you're just going, you're working yourself. It is already
most common things, the loneliness and the lack of.
I surround myself, which is thing for CEO. Yeah, big mega
That's right. That's why they have all of these external.
And then like they've got all this power dynamic. I had Maria. Same thing with founder freaking businesses. I got found like they're very low,
and that's why we did end up seeking it. And so that's how I found that one organization, because it was also the ability to learn from others, right? Instead of just constantly reading books that are never really quite it, or you never really have. And that was something where you get in a room with people and you'd be surprised what you absorb and learn, and it's for other people, and no one will be in your group that is another interior. So it's exactly like this, but you come with your issues, you come with your problem solving. And even if you don't have a problem, you would be surprised how much you learn just from other people. And their knowledge is paramount, right? It's other people who've been doing this for sometimes longer than us. Sometimes they're just getting started, but there's always something to offer, and it's always something to learn. And I love that you have that, because you're the first person that I've ever spoken to doing this over 3 years that has a network of people to bounce or call and say. And
I have a network of people too. I call you all the time, Caroline. I wanted her to do a common sense training.
Oh, I don't mean us.
No, I know.
Common.
I did.
Common sense is not so common, Chrissy.
I said, this is what she says to me.
That's wrapped up in a bow. You're welcome, Caroline.
I would say, for me, mentorship, there is a few people that stand out, but really it's my peers and people that I can call. And they're on speed dial that I call all the time, that we can bounce things. Caroline's one of them. Well, I call you quite often, but Caroline, all the time I call you. Literally, this year, you're an idiot. Did I not seriously call you and actually said, you need to please put together common sense training? I need common sense, and I will sell this to all the tradespeople. And she's like, well, can you give me more? Like, I don't know. Common sense. It's common sense. So anyways, yeah. So I talk to you. I would say if you looked at my favorites on my phone list, other than my husband and my 2 children, it's all women that I highly respect, that I have on speed dial, that I will call with any problem or question or funny story that I just wanted, chime in. Tell me what you think.
I've called you a million times because she gets what happens on a job site, and there's not a lot. So right? You won't believe in it.
Make it up, right, Lauren?
You can't even make you won't believe this one, and then I'll call her back 10 minutes later. Oh, guess what? About another one. You won't believe this one. Hence the common sense. I get it. Yeah, but she gets it because we actually are on a lot of the same job sites.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually it's the dudes that mess up. It's like, oh my God.
I know. There is a thing. I'm trying not to insult any men, but like there is a thing about the attention to detail when it comes to women in my world, that I don't have to micromanage any women on my vendor preferred list. But I love that you brought up who you surround yourself with, because we've all heard this theory about our children, right? It's important who they hang out with, and who they hang out with becomes their influence. But that's also prevalent with entrepreneurs and with adults. And so when you were saying it's amazing how many of us
are supposed to be the sum of the 5 people you spend time with.
That's right. So
that's why his purpose is said curated. Like I have got specific things that people bring to the table where I'm like, well, I've got this issue. Who am I going to go to?
Yeah.
Like if I
If I really need to hear the truth, who do I call? Oh, who's the fluff? Who's going to fluff me?
But even with business, like this would be truth teller Deb. Here's no minced words with Deb.
Going a flat on the back and a there, I know who to call. Yeah. If you're on the verge of tears and you're going to do the ugly cry, I know who to call. Yeah, it's so true.
But it is that thing where like not a lot of people have other entrepreneurs, and we tend to have a lot. And we grew up in a place that tends to have a lot. So it's not just us. We tend to live in this bubble of that's the norm, and it's really not.
Our women are already strong, eh? Like the women really surround ourselves,
I think the more we can talk about it with people that are not within this group, I think it's sorry to bring it up, but like the menopause shift, are getting so many more people talk about it. But the more we as women in business can start talking about how we've created networks for ourselves, that we don't have to do it on our own, that it's okay to ask for help, or like all of these things.
No topic is off the table.
Well, it's interesting. Like when I returned to, when I joined the private equity firm, it was Toronto based. I said, but North America focused. I said to the guys, and we were once meeting the guys that I joined, but I said, I don't have a Toronto network. I said, I've got a lot of friends, but I said, I don't have a Toronto business network anymore. I said, I've been working the past 15 years for multinationals and I'm everywhere, but my network is a bunch of Danaher folks, a bunch of, advisors around that. And they're like, oh, whatever. They weren't seeking that of me, obviously. But it's a very networked. Bay Street is feels so small. So I go down there and guess what? Like I would say this was even during COVID. I would say within half a year to a year, I'm in women's groups. So, because there's not a lot of women in private equity, not a lot of partner women in private equity. So I would say within 6 months, like I'm in about 3 different women's groups, which I was kind of like, I don't really need to, but I'm like, yeah, sure do, because we could all just have our little release buttons about what's working or not working. And then you just like, it's this stuff's important. Stuff's important to like find it. But yeah, like I was surprised because next thing I know, my community and then of course, sorry, I guess my other point was, so I didn't have a network. And then you just forget. We all know so many freaking people. Mm-hmm. Like, and then guess what? Like I was reuniting with friends from an old schoolmates and whomever else from 20 years ago. And it was quite lovely. And then you realize the value in that, but seek new ones out and also just make sure always keep recharging your historical ones too.
And outside of your area of expertise.
Right.
Yes.
That's why they definitely offer a perspective that is like, I never thought of that. Yeah.
I had a business coach last year who we called it Richard Branson time because he said every morning Richard Branson, which I have not fact checked, so don't come for me. He called it Richard Branson time, and he said that's what Richard Branson does 4 hours every morning. He spends reconnecting with old networks, going through his LinkedIns, he just spends this time every morning before he starts his day. So this is happening before the workday even starts, doing this reconnecting, networking, sending out emails, let's go for lunch, let's do like keeping your feelers out at all times because you never know what is going to lead. And so I have adopted that practice. Clearly I cannot do 4 hours, but I do an hour every morning. So first thing I do is the office.
So I mean, I know this is a business podcast, but but it's not just business.
Well, it has to feel genuine. It cannot be, it needs to be aligned.
I think it's really important to have community for a community is so important in your industry, in your social life, in your private life. I think it's really important. And the 4 of us, we spend a lot of time together. I don't know. There's so many comments that I was going to make on Bizarre. It's hard to read this in. I have just tried not to, so that, because we know each other so well. Like I've known Caroline since grade 3. Yeah. And I've known Laura for decades and decades, and I've known Deb for probably 25 years now.
Over 20.
So we've known each other, and I mean that's just the start. Like we know, like all of our group is tight.
Yeah. Also not normal, which I also get. So for everyone listening in my community,
it's important to have community in business and not in business. It's important. Yeah, find your people.
Yeah, and people get you. As I said, depends on how I'm typed, right? If I want to go talk Danaher, then guess who I dial up? Old Danaher buddy. This is kind of crazy. Like, I mean, it sounds like in my new setting or whatever setting, I'm like, this is that. And then you get reinforced and you're like, and maybe that's bad. By the way, you got to watch that too, over reinforcement. Like we all seek out what you want. Sometimes we all seek out what we want to hear. So make sure you're challenging yourself to get the other sides, but it's very helpful because you're like, is it just me? Like I always, when I'm starting to feel uncomfortable about business situation or something I'm seeing, that's usually my trigger to really go out and source and check myself, quite frankly. But I had another data point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where we end part 1. I really hope that you're going to join us next week for part 2, where it really gets going and everyone gets more comfortable wearing their mics. And you'll get a lot more information about what it takes to be running your business. Doesn't have to just be interior design business. It's what it takes to be an entrepreneur, the real nitty gritty. I hope you are adoring these women as much as I do. I feel privileged to be able to call them friends and that they're in my life regularly. And I really hope that you come back next week to hear part 2. Till then, have a great week.